Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay, Adam, we are ready to go now. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Will the meeting please come to order? I am Adam Aaron, a director, the president, CEO, and chairman of the board of AMC Entertainment Holdings. Welcome to our 2024 annual meeting of stockholders. An agenda outlining the order of business has been made available. The matters on which the stockholders will be voting today are 2. 1. Consider a certificate amendment to declassify the board of directors. 2. Elect directors. 3. Consider a certificate amendment to eliminate the prohibition against stockholder action by written consent. 4. Consider a certificate amendment to remove the limitation on stockholders' ability to call special meetings. 5. Consider a certificate amendment to expand the exculpation provision to limit the liability of certain officers. 6. To ratify the appointment of the company's independent public accounting firm. 7. To approve on an advisory basis or to disapprove on an advisory basis the compensation of the company's named executive officers as disclosed in the proxy statement. 8. To approve the 2024 Equity Incentive Plan. And finally, 9, if necessary, to adjourn the meeting to permit further solicitation of proxies. I'd like to begin the meeting by introducing our current board of directors, all of whom are joining me for this meeting remotely today via telephone and Zoom. They are Dee Clark, Sonia Jane, Hawk Koch, Bill Lader, Gary Locke, Kathy Paulus, Terry Putnam, Tony Sach, and Adam Sussman. Kevin Connor, the Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary of the company, will serve as Secretary of today's meeting. He has delivered to me an affidavit of Computershare, the notice agent for the annual meeting, which states that on April 24, 2024, a notice of the meeting was mailed to all stockholders of record as of the close of business on April 11, 2024, which was the record date for this meeting. Mr. Connor will now discuss the procedures for transacting business at this meeting. Kevin?
Good afternoon, everyone. The meeting will take place as described in the agenda. We have a quorum of stockholders present in person and via proxy to conduct business. When an item of business on the agenda is before the meeting for consideration, questions and comments should be limited to that item. If you wish to make a statement about any resolution pending on the floor, please raise your hand and be recognized. Once you are recognized, please approach the microphone, state your name, whether you are a stockholder or a proxy holder. If you are a proxy holder, please state the name of the stockholder that gave you the proxy. Please keep your statements brief and limited to the specific item up for discussion. We may have to interrupt any statement that continues for an unreasonable amount of time. Speakers will be limited to an absolute maximum of 2 minutes. You may not record the proceedings today, and phones or other recording devices are not permitted in the meeting room. Anyone disrupting the orderly conduct of the business or acting in a threatening manner toward AMC employees or fellow stockholders will be asked to leave the premises and, if necessary, escorted out by security personnel. If you have not already submitted your votes and would like to vote during the meeting, you may do so on the ballot provided to you at check-in. Ballots will be collected at the conclusion of the business items on the agenda. Any ballot not received when called for will not be counted. We will announce the preliminary results at the conclusion of the meeting. Final results will be published in an 8-K filing with the SEC.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
The Board of Directors has appointed Eddie Gladbach and Kelly Schemenauer as inspectors of election for the meeting. They have signed an oath to act as inspectors of election faithfully, and which will be filed with the minutes of this meeting. The directors of the company the inspectors have the registered stockholder list of the company as of the record date for determining stockholders eligible to vote at this meeting if they have not already done so by proxy heretofore. Kevin has advised that a quorum of the meeting is present, so I hereby declare the meeting duly and lawfully convened. I am aware that there is considerable interest in knowing how many shares there are and how many shares have voted at the meeting. The number of shares outstanding of the company as of the record date, which is April 11 of 2024, was exactly 276,388,250 total outstanding shares. Of those, approximately 138.5 million shares have voted in the meeting. That is a little more than 50% of the total outstanding shares as of the record date. However, that number of 138.5 million voted shares includes what are so-called brokerage firm discretionary votes, which are allowed on certain matters, like the ratification of the company's auditors, but are not allowed to vote on other matters. For non-routine items, only the individual shareholders who own shares, excluding those so-called brokerage firm discretionary votes, can vote. On that score, only 18.5% of AMC shares were voted at this meeting. I would remind all of our shareholders, many of whom are listening to this webcast, that voting at annual meetings of stockholders is a precious right and an important opportunity for you. In future meetings of the shareholders, I would encourage far more than 18.5% of our shareholders to actually cast their votes and let their voices be heard and counted. Now let's move to the items of business, which are the motions and proposals that were voted upon by the shareholders heretofore via proxy and will be voted at this meeting if anyone is voting in person. The first item of business is an amendment of the company's certificate of incorporation to declassify the board of directors, which shortens the term of all existing board members whose terms extends beyond a year, changes the duration of a director's term from 3 years to 1 year, and allows for and enables all shareholders to vote on all directors annually. This amendment, under Delaware law, requires that it be approved by 50.1% of our total outstanding shares. As I just said before, when you exclude the so-called brokerage firm discretionary votes, only 18.5% of our shareholders have voted so far. Unless more than 32% of our shares are voted in person at this meeting today, it is mathematically impossible to get an affirmative vote of more than 50% of the shares when only 18.5% of the shares are actually voting. Therefore, for this motion and for other motions like it that require a 50% majority of the total outstanding shares, I'm going to ask that all of these motions be moved and seconded consecutively, and then we will move to discussion and voting. Is there a motion on this proposal, number one, to change the declassification of the board?
Alice Rogers, a stockholder. I move that Proposal 1 be approved to amend the company's certificate of incorporation as set forth in the proxy statement.
Thank you, Alice. Is there a second?
Cynthia Pierce, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Cynthia. Let's move to the second proposal. As I said, we'll do discussion and voting of them en masse. The next item of business is the election of directors. However, before proceeding, we will need to determine the outcome of the vote on Proposal 1. Because if the board is not declassified, then not all of these directors will actually stand for election at this meeting.
Actually, Adam, let's skip Proposal 2 for now because we haven't voted on Proposal 1 yet. Let's do 1, 3, 4, and 5 together. Then we'll come back to 2.
Thank you, Eddie, acting as inspector of the election as you are. So let's move to Proposal 3, the stockholder written consent, which again requires 50.1% or more than 50.0% of the total outstanding shares to be approved. This is a motion to eliminate the prohibition against stockholders acting by written consent. Is there a motion to approve the amendment?
Chris Cox, a stockholder. I move that Proposal 3 be approved to amend the company's certificate of incorporation as set forth in the proxy statement.
Thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
Scott Falkenhayn, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Scott. Let's move to a motion proposal for Proposal 4. The next item is an amendment to the company's certificate of incorporation to remove the limitation on stockholders' ability to call special meetings. Again, this would require more than a 50% vote of the total outstanding shares of the company. Is there a motion to approve this amendment?
Cynthia Pierce, a stockholder. I move that Proposal 4 be approved to amend the company's certificate of incorporation as set forth in the proxy statement.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is there a second?
Greg Vermillion, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Greg. Proposal 5. This is officer exculpation. It's to change the company's certificate of incorporation to expand the exculpation provision to limit the liability of certain officers. This, too, requires more than a 50% vote of the shareholders of total outstanding shares. Is there a motion? Is there someone to move this proposal?
Debbie Weber, a stockholder. I move that Proposal 5 be approved to expand the exculpation provision as set forth in the proxy statement.
Thank you, Debbie. Is there a second?
Chris Cox, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Thank you, Chris. Eddie, Eddie is Inspector of Elections. Are we going to vote on 1 through 5 before we consider item 2, the election of directors?
Yeah, let's proceed with that.
Okay. On items 1 through 5, excluding 2, all of which require more than a 50% affirmative vote of the shareholder of the outstanding shares, realizing that as of now only 18.5% of those shares have voted. Are there any questions, discussions, or stockholder comment about any of these motions? Seeing none, I'll declare the discussion period over. Is there anyone attending the meeting in person who would like to cast a ballot on items 1, 3, 4, and 5? I see none. Therefore, I believe I can call the polls be closed. Eddie, do you want to release the results of items 1, 3, 4, and 5 before we go back to item 2?
Each of those items has failed to attain a majority of the shares outstanding, so therefore they have not passed. So we can proceed with item 2, election of directors, and we'll just be voting on the Class 1 directors.
Got it. And a reminder, it's an interesting point that the voting for many of those proposals was in the affirmative and by a wide margin. But because only 18.5% of the individual shares were actually voted, by definition, you can't get to 50%. Again, it's a good reminder to us all that if you have voting rights, you should use them. So let's go back to item 2, which is the election of directors. We are electing the Class 1 directors for new 3-year terms of office. Is there a motion to support the re-election of the Honorable Philip Lader, the Honorable Gary Locke, and Adam Sussman as directors of the company for another 3-year term?
Jason Cole, I'm a stockholder, and I move that these nominees be elected to serve as directors until 2027 annual meeting of stockholders.
Thank you, Jason. Is there a second?
Debbie Weber, a stockholder. I second that motion.
Are there any comments, questions, discussion on the potential election of Phil Lader, Gary Locke, and Adam Sussman for new 3-year terms? Seeing none, I now hereby declare the discussion period over. Is there any individual stockholder attending the meeting in person who would like to cast a ballot at this time on this matter? Seeing none, I hereby declare the polls closed. Eddie, would you please report the results as Inspector of Election on the re-election of Ambassadors Lader and Locke and Adam Sussman?
Kevin can report on all of the items at the end of the meeting, so I think we can go ahead and proceed with items 6 through 8, and then we can report on all of them at once.
That's good. Save some time. Thank you, Eddie. All right, ratification of auditors is proposal number 6. This is a proposal to ratify the appointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the company's independent public accounting firm for 2024 as discussed in the proxy statement. I'd like to recognize that there are representatives from Ernst & Young who are joining us today in person at the meeting. With those of you from E&Y who are with us today, please stand. Thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Technically, it might just be lady and gentlemen. Is there a motion to ratify E&Y?
Scott Falkenhayn is stockholder. I move that the appointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the company's independent public accounting firm for 2024 be ratified.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
John Merriweather, stockholder. I second the motion.
Are there any questions or comments about the yeoman service that E&Y provides to the company? Or lack thereof, if you're of a different mind? Seeing none, I declare the discussion period over. Does any shareholder in the room want to cast a ballot in person on this motion? Seeing none, I hereby declare the polls closed. We will now move to item 7, and we'll report, as Eddie suggested a few minutes ago, we'll get the results of the E&Y proposal at the meeting end. Item 7 is a proposal to approve the compensation of the company's named executive officers. The proposal is a non-binding stockholder advisory vote. The company's executive compensation is discussed in the company's proxy statement in detail. A motion to move forward on the say on pay vote is now in order. Is there a motion?
Rick Vermillion, a stockholder. I move that the compensation of the company's named executive officers as disclosed in the proxy statement pursuant to SEC rules be approved.
Is there a second? Is there a second on the say on pay vote?
Alice Rogers, a stockholder. I second the motion. Motion.
Thank you, Alice. Is there discussion on this matter? Seeing none, I end the discussion period. Does any shareholder attending the meeting in person want to cast a ballot on this matter? Seeing none, I hereby declare the polls closed. Let's move to item 8. The next item of business is to approve the 2024 Equity Incentive Plan. The plan details are provided in the proxy statement. The 2024 Equity Incentive Plan has been adopted by the company's Compensation Committee and by the company's Board of Directors, both of whom recommend approval by the stockholders. A motion is in order. Is there a motion?
John Merriweather, a stockholder. I move that the 2024 Equity Incentive Plan be approved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Jason Cole, a stockholder. I second that motion.
Are there any questions or comments or discussion on the issues surrounding a new equity incentive plan for the company? Seeing none, I'll close the discussion period. Do any shareholders in the room wish to cast a ballot in person on this proposal? Seeing none, I hereby declare the polls closed. On all these matters, I understand that we do have results based on the proxy votes counted heretofore and no new votes being cast at the meeting today in person. Kevin, could you please report on the results of these matters?
Thank you, Adam. Yes, the preliminary report of the inspectors of election indicates that we've already handled 1, 3, 4, and 5. Item 2, Mr. Lader, Mr. Locke, and Mr. Sussman have been elected as directors. Number 6, the appointment of Ernst & Young LLP as the company's independent public accounting firm for 2024 has been ratified. Number 7, the non-binding advisory vote to approve the compensation of the company's named executive officers as disclosed in the proxy statement has failed to obtain the support of a majority of the shares present and eligible to vote. Number 8, the 2024 Equity Incentive Plan has been approved.
Thank you, Kevin. On all the matters that were not approved by the shareholders today, I'd just like to remind everybody one more time how important it is for our shareholders to vote and have your voice be heard. On the say on pay vote, for example, which went down to defeat, only 17% of the company's shareholders actually voted against the say on pay non-binding advisory vote. 83% of the company's shareholders either voted in favor of the plan or did not vote at all. We'd like to know what all of you think in future elections. We do hope that in all these matters before the shareholders, that more of our shareholders actually cast their ballots and let their voice be heard. At this point, I hereby request that a final report be filed by the inspectors of election along with the minutes of this meeting. I hereby request the appropriate SEC filings on the voting results be submitted. And at this juncture, I would like to recess the meeting and see if there are any other questions on any topic from our shareholders who are attending the meeting in person. I would be happy to answer your questions or comment about your observations. And after the shareholder question period is concluded, we'll move the meeting away from recess and formally adjourn the meeting. Do any of the shareholders, there are half a dozen or so of you here who actually came to Leawood, Kansas and joined us in person for the meeting, do any of you want to make a comment or ask a question. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Madam. Tomas Medina, stockholder. And my question to you is, with the AMC, HYMC NFTs, are they going to have any type of utility towards the future, or what are we doing with that?
Thank you for your question, and thank you for being here in person. During, I think it was 2022 mostly, there was a great deal of consumer interest in NFTs, and we launched several. We launched some that were movie-themed. We launched some that celebrated individuals being AMC shareholders. We introduced one, as you say, about our investment in Hycroft Mining. The NFTs were visual. They had no intrinsic value other than the fact that they were limited in quantity and that they were issued in NFT form. So the answer to your question is no, there is no special functional use planned for the NFTs that were issued heretofore. The company we could do more NFTs going forward, but the consumer interest in them seems to have waned, and we have not done one in quite a while, and we don't have any on the drawing board right now. Is there another question or comment or observation from the floor?
Yes, Adam, here's another question.
Hey, Adam, good afternoon. Justin Lemieux, stockholder. Back in 2023 at the CinemaCon, there was an interview that you did, I believe it was Deadspin, and they asked you about debt, and you said that you weren't concerned about the debt and that you would hope to do a $10 to $16 billion capital raise with the APE shares. Is that still, do you feel that that's still attainable, and did you have a time frame for that looking forward?
Well, what you characterize as what I said back in 2023 is sort of accurate, but not totally accurate. I never said I was unconcerned about our debt, because we do have over $4 billion of debt. And as chief executive of the company, of course, I've got to be mindful of and paying attention to our debt. What I implied at the time was that I was confident that we would either be able to repay some of the debt and or refinance some of the debt to be such that the company can continue to function carrying a prudent level of debt. And I believe that mindset that I had in 2023 then is exactly the same mindset that I had 2 years ago and 4 years ago and 6 years ago, and the mindset that I have today. We certainly have debt. We've paid off almost $1 billion of debt in the last 2 years, which is a wonderful thing. We do still have debt outstanding. What's particularly interesting is we borrowed about $2 billion during the period shortly after COVID hit the company to stay afloat. $2 billion. And yet, today, 4 years after COVID, even though the box office has not yet recovered to pre-box office levels, we actually have less net debt today than the company had at the end of 2019, just before COVID arrived. So I think one of the observations of that is the company has managed its debt extremely well. Now, going forward, we have about $2.5 billion of debt coming due in 26. We've got $100 million, $150 million of debt coming due in 2025. It's very important for the company to continue either pay down that debt or to refinance that debt and extend their maturities. And as we said on our quarterly earnings call just a few weeks ago, paying down debt and extending the maturities of our debt continues to be a very high priority of the company in 2024 and in the years ahead. As for the comment about being able to raise $16 billion of equity, that was based on the share price at the time. Given the number of shares that were available that could be sold to the public and the share price at the time. As every shareholder knows all too painfully, our share price has come down dramatically since early in 2023. It's lost a tremendous amount of its value. So as we sit here today, I should point out, since April of 2023, we did raise about $1 billion of equity through the sale of shares. But based on the shares that are available for further sale to the public today, and based on the current share price, we could raise only about another approximately $1 billion. Somewhere between, at today's share price, somewhere between $800 million and $1 billion. That's not what our fundraising ability would have been in 2023. That's a direct result of the share price coming down. Still, as I look at what I believe will be a significantly rising box office in 2025 and again in 2026, I think that our ability to stay strong and have cash in the bank, the odds are enormously good at that. There are no plans on the table right now to sell equity to the general public through an at-the-market equity raise, as we have done many times in the past. We retain the rights and flexibility to do so in the future. If it makes sense to do so at the time, only upon the appropriate public notice in filings made with the SEC. Similarly, we can use shares to buy back debt or as inducements to extend the maturities of our current debt in the future years. That is something that the company is looking at presently. There's no news to announce on that subject, and we will continue to keep our stockholder base apprised if, as, and when there are any developments on that score. Other questions?
Follow-up. Oh,
Follow-up.
follow-up first and then another question.
Okay, yeah, and last one. Based on where you see the company's financials, whether it's now or in the next year or two, do you have any plans for a dividend, for issuing a dividend?
Companies don't generally talk about its dividend strategy for the long term. Typically, companies talk about dividends only after the board of directors has approved a dividend for the preceding quarter. We have not obviously issued a dividend since COVID hit. And as I look at the priorities for the company's cash, just talking right now, today, not looking years ahead, but just talking about today, static, looking at today, looking today and backwards, not looking forwards. I think the company's priorities for its cash in the bank are to continue to maintain a very high amount of cash in the bank to make sure that our cash reserves are robust. The reason for that is simple. There are many companies, including large ones in our industry, who filed for Chapter 11 as a result either of the COVID hitting the world or the actors' writers' strikes hitting the entertainment industry and the movie industry last year. The way one avoids bankruptcy is to have cash in the bank, to have robust cash reserves. And we have robust cash reserves today. We'd like to have robust cash reserves going forward, so that's a priority. Another priority for the cash that we have is to pay down debt. Another priority for the cash reserves that we have is to invest in our business, especially growth initiatives to grow CapEx. So as I said, again, static, looking today and backwards, not necessarily looking forwards. Those are the priorities of the company over a dividend. Another question.
I got press it? No, it's fine. Hi, Adam. My name's Larry Bathowicz. I'm a shareholder. Do you happen to know the percentage of retail to corporation stockholders, what that percentage is? I've been seeing different numbers lately.
Well, the numbers have moved around over the years. The numbers that I've seen, and these are not exact numbers, but these are approximate numbers, it's my understanding that's around 75 to 85% of our shares are held by individual retail investors. The balance are held by institutions. But of the shares that are held by institutions, most of them are so-called index funds, which have a requirement to own shares of all the companies in their index. And they don't typically act like normal institutional investors who buy and sell at their whim and based on how they think the share price is doing, going up or down, what its future prospects are. Those firms are buying and holding shares and rebalancing their portfolios to maintain an exact correlation to the index they represent. So if you were to exclude the index funds, those institutional investors who have to own our shares and really don't have the flexibility to buy and sell at whim, they just have to buy and sell based on rebalancing their portfolios either at month end, quarter end, or year end as is appropriate under their charters. I think you would see that individual retail shareholders still own more than 90% of our shares if you exclude index funds. But those numbers are approximate. Those are not exact, but I do believe they're accurate.
Hello, Silverback. My name is Corey Seaman. I'm a proxy shareholder through Fidelity and also a direct registered shareholder.
Corey, nice to meet you. If my handle is Silverback, what's yours?
My handle? I don't have. I'm on Twitter, 401 Doge, but that doesn't matter, right? We're all just people, you know.
Sure. Well, thank you, Corey.
But I really just stopped by to say thank you, you know, because I'd be remiss if I didn't say I'm also a GameStop holder, and you may be aware that there was a $200 million investment disclosed, and if that lights the fuse to MOAS, that it's been a pleasure riding for 3 years with you, and if it takes another decade, you know, then let's ride together, right? So it is what it is, but just thank you for embracing the shareholders the way you did. I remember when you were with Trades on your calls, the AMC calls, and just you've done the NFTs, you did the APE dividend. I mean, just you have embraced us, so thank you for that. And also, I want to say thank you to the AMC shareholders as well, the other shareholders that are out there, because when I was a young man, well, first took my son, 3-year-old, to his first movie. We saw Kung Fu Panda. So, you know, you should be proud of what you've got here with the company. We appreciate what you're doing, and we're going to keep going to the show. And I just thought it was super cool that I got to take him to his first movie. So thanks for doing that here.
Sorry, so keep going. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay. And the last thing was just to thank the shareholders, because when I was a young man, I served in the United States military for 8 years, and one of those years I served in Iraq shooting down missiles and mortars for, you know, our brothers and sisters. They didn't ask me to kill anybody. I was only protecting people, and that gives you a sense of public service. It gives you, you know, a reason, right, some camaraderie that you just don't anticipate seeing ever again, and I have seen it in this community. I wasn't looking for it, but I'm telling you, you know, there are other veterans that get out. Unfortunately, suicide is a very, very high rate for veterans, and it is a lot because they lack that camaraderie. They lose that sense of purpose. So I wasn't looking for it, but I see it here. I think that all the other apes, most of them, have a great moral compass, and I appreciate what we're doing, what we've done over the last 3 years. And if it takes another 20, hey, I'll pass it on down to my son. So let's go.
So, Corey, there's someone next to you. I keep on seeing thumbs ups. Is that person with you, or is that person not with you? I don't know, but I see the thumbs up. Look, I think what I should do is simply say, after that comment, Corey, we should adjourn the meeting. But I can't do that because I need and I want to respond to what you said. You were quite eloquent in what you said. And what I'm about to say, I'm about to say from the heart. This company was dealt a rough blow by COVID-19 in March of 2020. We lost $1 billion of EBITDA that year. And the box office, the industry-wide box office, 4 years later from COVID, is still 25-30% down from what it was before COVID struck. And there are a lot of companies in the movie theater industry who failed and had to go into bankruptcy court or actually stop being in business at all. And that did not happen to AMC. Through it all, AMC has been the strongest player in the movie theater industry. It's a weak industry, but we're the strongest player in it. We are the leader of it. And I'd like to tell you that some of that credit goes to our board of directors and the management of the company who made wise decisions and took bold action over the past 4 years to prevent AMC from failing. What's far more important than what our board did or what I did, what the management team of the company did, or what the employees in our theaters did, is what you all did. Retail investors rallied around AMC. They embraced AMC. Retail investors saved AMC. And as you know, I have enormous respect for our shareholder base. I wanted to not only embrace you, but communicate with you. I went on to Twitter. I tweeted about 1,000 times in the last couple of years, with most of those communications aimed just clearly at our shareholders who watch and read on social media. And it has been the honor of a lifetime. This is the 5th company I've run over the past 30 years, but it's been the honor of a lifetime to work to help save AMC for the benefit of moviegoers, for generations to come, and also for our retail shareholders. And I will tell you that one of the things that has driven us to succeed and not throw in the towel has been the passion and enthusiasm of our shareholder base. So as you thanked us, Corey, and you thanked your fellow shareholders, I'd like to thank you and your fellow shareholders because you've given us the energy to sustain this company. I am aware, painfully so, that the share price has come down in the last 2 years. I personally have lost tens of millions of dollars on the share price decline. Having not sold a share of the company since January of 2022 and having no plans to sell any shares anytime soon. I've said publicly that I ride with you. I do believe that's a two-way street. I ride with you because you've ridden with us. And I look forward to a time when the industry is back strong and healthier above pre-COVID levels, when the company is back with EBITDA and earnings levels higher than pre-COVID levels. Clearly, we're not there yet, but we have made great progress since 2020 and 21 and 22 and 23, and I look forward to 2025 and 2026, which I do believe will be better years. So on that note, I think this is an annual meeting of stockholders, and the right way to close the annual meeting of stockholders is to thank our stockholders for your massive support of AMC Entertainment. Are there any other questions or comments in the room? Seeing none. That concludes the business of the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chris Cox, a stockholder. I move that this meeting be adjourned.
Is there a second? Thank you, Chris.
Debbie Weber, a stockholder. I second the motion.
Well, all in favor of the motion to adjourn this annual meeting of shareholders, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Say nay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you one and all for joining us today.